Investment Dominator Call. And my name is Warren Davis, and we're here on a beautiful Thursday. It is 29th of April, 2021. Here Okay, I'm seeing that you can hear me. All right. For some reason, I got a network connection message that said that my network connection had been lost, and now it's showing it's been reestablished again. Don't exactly know what that's about, but okay. So I understand that you can hear me and you can see my screen that shows how to, correct? You can see my screen, then we're in good shape. And I noticed that a couple of you had to pop out and come back in again. So on this, in terms of those that are on for the very first time with us, just to know how to get your questions answered, want to make sure you have your control box there. It said, send me your questions. So in this control box, we want you to write your question. And the way that we want you to send in your question is by putting in maybe a Q in front of your question, or you can put the word question in front of your question, or you can put a question mark. Those are the one of three ways. If you send that in, and it will help myself and coworker of mine, Dominique De Jesus, it'll help both of us to distinguish and decipher between questions and comments. So we'd appreciate it if you could do that for us. It'd be very helpful. Don't worry about the little hand signal here. We normally don't see that. You can raise it if you like, but it's not necessary. Just mainly type in your question with a Q or a question mark and send it to us. And hopefully we'll get it and be able to answer today. As usual, what we're going to do is we're going to handle our backlog of questions first that we have from the past. And so we do see some questions coming in for today, and we'll get to those at some point. We'll fit them in as we're doing our backlog of questions. Want to make sure we always have that because this is recorded, and we want to make sure folks can go back and hear the answers to questions they might have had on Monday or even last Thursday. So in order to kick us off here, one of a general question that we've been having, which is normal at this time, that is how when is the next 2.5-day maximizer workshop? And the next 2.5-day maximizer workshop is actually Tuesday. This Tuesday coming up, which should be May 4th. So that's the next 2.5-day workshop. And with that said, we're going to make a request of all of you that are on here today. If you'd be patient with, us getting your questions answered. The situation we have, which is a good thing. We have some folks that have not been to the 2.5-day workshop yet, so they don't have an extensive knowledge or a real understanding about the Investment Dominator like they will after the 2.5-day workshop. So you've got that mindset on the phone with us today or on the call with us today. Now you also have the mindset of those that just completed the last 2.5-day workshop, which was last week, where Jack and I taught that together. there's that mindset that's on the call. So you have those people have a little bit more experience since they've gone through the Investment Dominator. They may have been working with it for a few months, and then they came to the 2.5-day workshop. And then finally, there's the last mindset where you have someone that's been working with Investment Dominator and working with the and has already gone through the 2.5-day workshop and has some extensive experience. Maybe they are returning. They started the business. Some folks have started the business years ago. For whatever reason, they came away from the business and now they're back again. So there is also that mindset, which is a more experienced perspective on some of these calls with us today. So with that in mind, we want you to all be patient. We'll get to your questions as soon as we can, and get them answered for you as thoroughly as we can. So we got rid of took care of the first question. Then Tony had a question from I think it was just Monday. Where can we watch the replays of the recorded webinars? So in order to answer that one, we'll just bring up our Investment Dominator screen here. And that's a very good question. Where can we see the replays of all of these recorded webinars? That's going to be under your Help tab. And I just make sure I write down the questions here, and then not only write them down, but then we'll show you how you get into that. You come up under your Help tab, and you'll see where it will list, weekly live Q&A training calls. These are the recorded calls here, but in order to access them, you left click there, opens up your different selections, and you want to come down here to view, click here to view replays of previous live Q&A training sessions. So when you click there, all of the training sessions that we've had in the past will be showing up here. And of course, once you select or you click on one, it'll have the various questions with the timestamps associated. And all you have to do is activate this video over here to the right and scroll to the timestamp location, and that's where we're answering that specific question. So that's how you view all the replays. And we have one person chiming in saying YouTube as well. So okay, so you can view it on YouTube as well. All right, very good. That's a couple of questions that we've got knocked out here. And another one that we have came from Angela, where she said she has names in your data where the spouses have different last names. Okay, so spouses, I have to make sure I write down all of my questions. So the spouses have different last names, and she wants to know, do I have to create another column for the second person first and last name to import into Investment Dominator? So is it necessary to create another column? And this is for primarily if there are multiple owners, if they are really owners on record, like with the county site. That's the way I'm going to answer this one. For second person's name. Yes. If now the way I'm going to answer that, Angela, is if they are actually on record with the county, then you definitely want to import them into Investment Dominator in the correct field. So in that sense, in that case, you would have to create another record. So, or excuse me, not another record, but another location on the record for them. If we go up here under Help, search our user guide, and we just type in import. So this is going to come up a series of articles. We want to know how to import your list for land investing right here. This article is going to show you all of the fields that are possible for you to input into Investment Dominator. These are your fields in your Excel file that you import here in the middle. So if you have actually an owner's first name, last name, you got the original owner, owner's first name, last name is appearing here, right? If there is another owner on record, then you definitely want to create the second owner's first name, second owner's last name. And you see we have up to, I think we have up to 5 different owners that you can have. Yep, up to 5 different owners that you can bring into Investment Dominator. Obviously, the fields that are in color, these are your required field. If it's in white here, it shows as an optional field, so it's not required. But if you have that second owner that's on record with the county, you definitely want to import them into Investment Dominator, because when it comes time to print out your offers, you want that second owner showing up in that field. Okay. So hopefully that will cover that for you, Angela. And just so you know, you can have, up to 5 different owners. So there's really no reason for not having all of the owners listed on the record. And we did have one clarification question here I wanted to address from John that he asked on Monday night. When purchasing domains from GoDaddy, and this is a pretty straightforward question. When purchasing domains from GoDaddy or NameCheap or whoever your domain provider is, the question is, are we just purchasing or reserving a domain name? It's not an actual website. Is that correct? And that is a correct statement. When you are in Investment Dominator purchasing the domain, that's just so you can have a domain associated with your buying site, another domain associated with your selling site. If I were to open this out, this is the domain name that was purchased. Sellyourlandfaster.com. That's for your buying site domain. Then, of course, the selling site domain is megalanddeals.com. This is what was purchased. So you're just purchasing the domain name so you can associate it with a specific buying or selling website in Investment Dominator. Just want to make sure that's clear for everybody. You're not, when you purchase that domain for $11.99, you're not buying a website. Definitely not. Okay, good question. Just want to make sure I note it here. GoDaddy. Okay. Let's see if we can fit in here a couple of our current questions that we have coming in today. And I believe we do have Dominique on with us today. And so if he is, I want to say welcome to you, Dominique. And if you would go ahead and kick off some of the questions that we have coming in here today. I'll fit in some of the other backlog questions as well.
Sure thing. Can you hear me, Warren?
I can hear you great. That's excellent.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, we got some questions coming in today. Let's see. We have one from Tiffany James here. She's asking, how do you easily select 200 records within Investment Dominator that are ready for mailing instead of selecting by county?
200 records, okay. From within ID for mailing. Okay, that's a good question. It's also kind of a loaded question. Instead of selecting by county. All right. Now, there's the shortest answer to that would be, okay, under our land deals records here, obviously when you want to mail out records to your potential sellers. All right, you're going to mail out the records that are in prospect status, correct? So we have records in prospect status. So now when I guess the operative word there that she used was, how do you do this easily? All right, and that's kind of a relative term there, but the way I would do it easily is I'm going to look at this property ID number over here to the left that I'm highlighting, and let me just get a whole page of prospect records so we can see a little more clearly what I'm talking about. So we search and we come up with all of our prospect records. Now you see, as they've been imported into Investment Dominator, they have a sequential property ID record. If I wanted to do the first 200 records, I'm basically, I mean, we have 10 records per page here. So if I look at the first 20 pages of my data here, that's going to be 200 records, right? So I'm going to select, up to, let's say, 20059. I'm going to, look back at this for, 20 pages or so. That's probably the, see if that goes back. I mean, there's a lot of pages of information, but that's how I would do it easily. I would select my unique identifier over here to the left. This is five pages, so it's not 20 pages. It would be, I guess it would be more like 10 pages, right? 10 pages. So the first 5 pages, which are going to be, if you have basically to add up to your 200 records, I would select, let's say, 20010 through 20059. And the way I'm going to select those, is I'm going to use my property ID search, my ID range search. All right, so he said we're going to select up to 20059. And so I may start out with 200, let's say, I'll just go 00. All right. So this is I realize this is going to give me 59 records, but that's the way I would do it. I would use my property ID search, make sure they're all sequential. And when you search this, it should come up with, if I do a select all, it's going to come up with 60 records, right? So that's the easiest way. And then these are ready for mailing now. Of course, if you want to just mail out these 59 records because I selected them this way, I'm not going to go up here and do campaigns, because campaigns is going to give me all records in prospect status. Because I've selected these records this way, I'm going to come up here to generate documents. Now, generate documents is going to give me, if I were to open up this letter, this document or download letters, it's going to give me all 60 of those ready to be printed off and mailed. Now that's if I'm going to print them myself. And that's why I'm saying this is kind of a loaded question, because I'm sure you probably don't want to print off all those records. You probably want to leverage the power of your campaigns this way, where you put all of them in a CSV file. See, if I open up this CSV file, which goes to my letterprinting.net, see, that's the other question I would be asking. Are you going to print these yourself? You're going to mail them yourself? Or are you going to send them out to letterprinting.net? If you're going to do that, you're going to have to use your campaigns, but that's going to give you every record in prospect status. So this is why we tell people you only import the records you want to process out of Investment Dominator, because now that I have more than 200 records, right, in prospect status, I've got to select all the other prospect records put them in another status, like, if I selected these records here, I've got to change the status to something other than prospect, right? I might put them on hold, or I might make a special status for them, to be printed or something like that, to be processed. But I have to place those records that I don't want to print in another status. So then the only records that are in prospect status are the records I want to mail out to ITI or letterprinting.net. So then I can come up here and I can use my campaigns, and my campaigns is only going to pull those 200 records that I want to print out. So, that's the long and short. There's no really easy way to do it, but that's the way you're going to have to do it. Either selecting by your property ID, printing those yourself, or putting all of your records except for the 200 in some other status, and then using your campaigns. And then it creates the CSV file for you. So that's kind of a long-winded answer, but that's the only way you can do it. And that's why we make sure people understand the only records you should import into Investment Dominator if you're using ITI are the records you want to mail out that particular week. Don't bring in several thousand records. Then you have to manage them within Investment Dominator, and that gets a little more complicated. Okay, let's see if I have anything else around mailings. Nope. Let's take another question if we can.
Okay, and we have a question here from Angela George. She's asking, what section does trust go into for importing into Investment Dominator?
You said what section does a trust? Oh, a trust. Chances are it's gonna fall under company, right? So but it's still going to come in here into your Investment Dominator as a prospect. So if you're talking about importing them into Investment Dominator, you remember when we go up to import and just look at your sample list. Okay, you're going to have individual records or you're going to have company records. All can be imported into Investment Dominator. So even though it's a trust, chances are it's going to fall into this company type of record. But when you ask what section of the Investment Dominator, it's still going to go into the land deals, and it's going to come in as a prospect, right? It's just going to have a company name instead of having an individual's name. That's going to be the only difference. So hopefully I got that question right. Make sure I get it jotted down here. Okay.
Okay, and we have a question here from Tiffany James, and she's asking, it looks like it has to do with updating existing records, but let me know, Lauren. It says, do you have to import the same county again if you didn't originally include the second owner?
Okay, let's see. One quick moment here. 2902. Okay, so Tiffany, say that question again, please, Dominic.
Sure thing. So it says, do you have to import the same county again if you didn't originally include the second owner?
Oh, no. No, import the same county. No, I wouldn't do that at all. If you did not include the second owner, all you really have to do, once you go into the county records and you realize who the second owner is, So you find that you have a second
Hey, Warren, if you're able to hear this, the stream can't hear you right now.
you see it expands and it gives you space to put in your second owner's first name, last name, and all the way up to your fifth owner. So on a case by case basis, that's how I would approach that, is simply by coming in and saying, yeah, there's more than one owner on title. I didn't catch them. And then just, go ahead and type them in here. And then obviously don't forget to update your record. So that would, I think, that would be the quickest way to handle that. All right. Let's see. Let's see if I have anything else around this area. Not around this area specifically. Go ahead. Is there another question there?
Sure. So it looks more like a general overview from Tiffany. We have a question just going over um, what you kind of mentioned before, but sending out documents, just kind of generating documents for your records.
Oh, sending out or generating documents. Okay, yeah, that's kind of a general question, generating documents. So, and I don't know what specifically what the question is, but how you would generate documents for any of your records. The main point is if I come into here and I select specific records, right? Like I selected these 3 prospect records. I'm only going to use the generate documents at this particular level because that's associated with the fact that I selected records. If I want to see all documents as it pertains to prospect status or as it pertains to records that are in offer requests, so that's pending preliminary research status. If I want to see all of those documents based on status, I'm going to go up here and go into my campaigns. And that's going to look in Investment Dominator and give me everything based on status. But if I just want to generate documents for these 3, I'm going to hit this generate documents right above that list. And then it's going to give me let's say the neutral letters, like this one here, but you see it's only going to be associated with 3 people, right? Because that's all I selected was 3. So I'm thinking that's the question. If it's not, I need a little more clarity there.
Okay, and we have another question here, also from Tiffany. And when you have to edit multiple records, is there a way to bulk edit those records?
Well, yes, you can bulk edit. You can bulk edit records, but there's only certain fields that we allow you to bulk edit at one time. I'll give you an example. So if I have, again, I'll pick 3 records here, 3 specific records that I want to edit, or if you will, bulk update. And I come up here under generate documents. There is a bulk update feature right here, bulk update, but you see what it's allowing me to update here. This is offer accepted by, option offer, option sent accept by, which is if you're doing an option, an offer expires on and the option expires on, or I can tag, if I've already created a tag, I could tag records all at one time. So what I would need to know is the scenario in which, you want to bulk update a bunch of records. These are specific fields that the system will allow you to bulk update. Now that said, um, if I want to bulk update, let's say different addresses, like I've gone out and I've skip traced, a bunch of people, and I found out now that they are, I found the right address, and I changed the status from skip trace back to prospect. When I come in and I import these records now, another form of bulk updating, if you will, instead of saying create new records here, I'm going to say update existing records. I'm going to select that. But even in updating, you're updating existing records. The system finds, if it finds a matching property record that is already in the system, based on the APN, property state, and property county fields, it will update the owner's contact information. But that's basically just the owner's contact information. And it's going to add any land records that weren't in the previous update. But again, this is only the owner's, contact information. If you're trying to bulk update like a whole bunch of records that, I'm trying to think what fields. Let's go in and look at one record. If I want to try to bulk update, I don't know, a parcel number, that's unique. Short legal, that's unique. If I want to bulk update, property city, let's say for some reason, with a whole bunch of records, there's no way that I know of to bulk update that kind of field. There's no way to bulk update the size of properties. There's no way to bulk update zoning. There's no way to bulk update your annual base taxes, right? So these are individual fields. So the system's only going to allow us to bulk update a few fields, and I would have to know the scenario specifically to be able to say yes or no to that kind of question. But I'm hoping that gives you a little insight there.
Yeah, that's great. And another general question here we have about mailing. Referring to what you mentioned before about the generating campaigns and getting that CSV file, we have a question here about what are the next steps after getting that CSV file and in order to send to the mail house.
Oh, okay. All right. Let me get that. Next steps for sending to mailing house. Okay. Or I'm thinking it's maybe ITI or letterprinting.net. Letter printing. Okay. So again, if I have handled this by bringing in, my prospect records, only the ones that I want to deal with, and however many that may be, I'm going to go up here under campaigns, and my next step, to get these ready for the mailing house is I'm going to open up, or I'm going to open up this CSV file here. And once I open that up, this is ready. These are all the fields that ITI is going to use. So this is ready to go to ITI, but I'm going to save this somewhere on my computer. Like let's say in a folder called, mail house entries or mail house information or ITI information. So this is one of the files I'm going to save somewhere because I'm going to send this file along with not only this Excel file, but I'm going to send my neutral letter template. See, all I did was hover over this, brings up this neutral letter template, and then I'm going to save this somewhere on my computer because it has all the fields that they're going to use. So I need to save this somewhere, probably in that same folder that you save your CSV file. Same folder I save the CSV file, I'm going to save this as well. And I'm also going to save my envelope template because these are all the fields that the mail house uses. Those three pieces of information must be sent in your order to ITI. So I'm going to save them somewhere. And then, of course, I'm going to log into ITI since I have an account, hopefully, with ITI. I'm going to then log in and I'm going to go through these steps. You know, even if I have to get them on the phone, they'll walk you through the steps of, you know, creating your order. And then at the right time and place within that order, I'm going to then save these. They're going to be saved as a PDF file, by the way, so that you can upload them right into ITI as a PDF. Your envelope template, your neutral letter template, that's going to be saved as a PDF file, and then your actual data that you want them to print. So those three pieces of information is going to go into my ITI order, and my very last step that I'm going to do after I've sent my order off and they've accepted my order, I'm going to do a bulk update of all of the records that are in prospect status. I want to make sure I change that status from prospect to mailed letter 1. If I were you, I would put this in stars. I would make sure it's in bold. Make sure you don't forget to update prospect status to mailed letter 1. I can't tell you how many students have failed to do this. So then when they come back in the next week, where'd my investment dominator go? They come back in the next week, these records are still in prospect status. And so what do? They import a whole bunch of more prospect status records, and then they end up double mailing the previous. They're sending out a whole bunch of records because they forgot to change this to mailed letter 1 status. It's got to be your next status, right? Mailed letter 1. So those are the steps to getting them to the mailing house. And then your last step, of course, of bulk updating your status, and you should be done at that point. Okay. And let's see if I can fit one backlog question in here, which I don't exactly know when this came in, but it came from Darlene, asking a very interesting question. If you have a DBA or doing business as, so Darlene is speaking of, we talk on Monday nights about company information. So she's asking if my company name, if I don't actually have a company name, but I put in here DBA or doing business as and my name, she's asking, do you also need a city business license as well to do business as a particular person, like, you know, in some county? That may be a county specific situation, but in all the counties we've worked, I've never come in contact with having to have a city business license to do business. And I don't think it has anything to do with having DBA in here as your company name. So as far as I'm answering that question, I'll say no. To my knowledge, you do not need a business license to do any business in that a specific county. So hopefully that will bring some clarity to you there, Darlene. All right, let's see. We need a business license. And along with that, there was another good question that came in that was in our backlog as well, right around that same. It came from John regarding setting up an LLC. Okay, I'm going to answer that question because I know there's a lot of you out there that are in the process of setting up your LLCs. And he's asking about a real estate license. And let's see exactly what his question is here. So John is asking, one of the questions I've asked I was asked when setting up an LLC was about an additional real estate license or permit needed for buying and selling real estate. Would there be any needed in some states to buy and sell vacant land? And again, as long as we've been in the business, we've gone into various counties, many different counties. We've never been asked for a real estate license in any state. We don't have a real estate, we didn't have a real estate background when we got into this business. I mean, we do now because thanks to the land business, but we didn't when we first got into the business. And over the years we've been in the business, we have not ever been asked for a real estate license in any state. The only thing we have been asked as it pertains to an LLC, the only thing we've been asked to do is register our LLC in a specific state, right? Because if you do enough business in a particular state, of course, they want their taxes, right? So they want you to register your LLC in that particular state, but that's been the extent of it. No license has been needed. Okay, good question. It's more of a business question than it is an investment dominator question, but it is still a very good question. Any more questions coming in from out there, Dominic, that we can address here before we move on?
It doesn't look like we have any new questions coming in right now.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Well, Shane had a question from last week. I tell you, there's got to be I've tried a couple different ways to figure out how to get my questions written down here quicker so I don't have to spend time. But I haven't figured that out yet. Dominic, maybe you'll be the man to figure that out. Shane is asking if we receive a market value in our lead data. We receive a market value in our lead data. Can we use this value as the actual market value to calculate our offers and not need to check any further? Good question, Shane. And I'm going to answer that based on my experience. In our lead data, can we use this value as our market data, as our market value amount, and not check any further? And in my opinion, that's a big fat no to that. Even if I import data into Investment Dominator, as I'm importing information, let's say I'm getting data from, Rebo Gateway, or I'm getting data even from Data Tree, wherever my data is coming in. A lot of times, counties will include the market value. They'll include some market value, and they also then you'll look up the county assessed value, what they're assessing that at. So the question is, can we trust, can we believe that the market value they've calculated, remember your market value is calculated from your actual comps that you go out, your comparables that you go out and find in the market to see what's selling, now, what's the market doing now. So if a company that I get lead data in from, if they already have this populated, you might be able to assume, well, maybe they've gone out and they've checked, the market, but I seriously doubt that. They don't normally do that. So if your lead source information is coming in with a market value, I just don't believe it until I go and I check Zillow or, LandWatch, and I see comps, I see comparables for my size property that, my whatever size property I'm looking for, and that's within like 2 or 3 miles of my property. I don't want to see a comp that's 10, 20 miles away. I want to see a comp that's close. So the answer to my question is no, I would not believe that market value information coming in. I'm going to verify it on my own, and then I'm going to put in my market value. And basically, when I go up here, it's in the wrong status. So then when I go up here and I do my offer requests and I calculate my offer request, see, I'm going to put in some value in my market, and then I'm going to be able to calculate my market value there. Excuse me, my offer amount that I want to give to this seller. Okay, that's Shane's question. And Darlene again asked a question around Ring Central. Let's see. Let's see. Darlene. Ring Central is, I guess, charging her or wants to charge her. Gave her a main number and a direct number. Gave a main number and a direct number, and they want to charge $47. Okay, is this correct? Now, all I'm going to say on that, Darlene, is that you're probably getting charged for something you don't need. I haven't looked at the order, obviously, so I can't say what they're charging you for. But if you listen to what Dominique and I share with you on Monday nights, the cost for those for your phone system, one phone number and 2 extensions usually is running, unless they've gone up on their prices, is running $32 a month. So when we're talking about this configuration here, one phone number, 2 extensions through Ring Central, that normally runs $32. That's just for this side of the configuration. One phone number, 2 extensions. If they're charging you more than $32 a month, their chances are they're charging you for something that you don't need. And 9 times out of 10, they've always told us about this multiple users or like second users charge that they levy, and that usually runs like, it ends up running about $54 a month. So you don't need that. All you need is one phone number, 2 extensions. And if I would actually take a screenshot of this, show this to your representative. Now, if you incorporate a second number, which you would dedicate towards your buyers, because remember, this local number 1, this is for your sellers. For your buyers, that normally is another $5 for an additional number. So this whole configuration shouldn't run you more than $37 a month if you get 2 numbers, right? So I don't know what they're charging you for, but if they're charging you $47 a month, they've charged you for something that you really don't need. And Again, without seeing your order, I can't, I have no way of knowing what they're charging you for. But you have to be with Ring Central. You find have to be very stern. You can't let them sway you because they will upsell you in a minute. So I'm hoping that's brings a little more clarity there. And let's see. So some of these questions that we've even have in our backlog, they've come from, they're not really investment dominator related questions. They're more business questions, which we don't mind answering those as long as we've handled our investment dominator questions. So are there any new questions coming in? I'll take this one here. That is more of a business question. And the question is, what are the 12 states? So it's 12 states within the United States we know that are considered non-disclosure. So the ones that are considered non-disclosure states. And what are we talking about? We're talking about, if you look in Zillow, let's say for example, let's see. Oh, let me think. What's a county? And I'm just going to do Texas as a state. Dallas, Texas. So if we look at Dallas, Texas, all right, and you look at all these that are sold. Now you see over here where you don't see any amounts. If you look in Zillow or you look in any other site that helps you do your comparables, if you don't see anything next to the dollar sign, that means that's a non-disclosure state. All that means is they're not required for any land that they've sold, they're not required to disclose that amount. So of course they have to do it for their listed because, hey, you got to know how much they're going to ask you to pay for that property. But Texas is an example of a non-disclosure state. So the question is, how many, what are the non-disclosure states where they're not required to list how much they sold property for? And we've come up with this list, and hopefully this will help somebody if they're just curious. So our non-disclosure states that we've come up with so far are Alaska, Idaho, Kansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, New Mexico, North Dakota, Texas, Utah, and Wyoming. So I don't know, it's not a big deal, you know, whether or not, even when they don't disclose, the only issue that this brings up, and I'm putting this up here because this is recorded now, so these are your non-disclosure states that we've identified so far in the United States. The only time it becomes an issue is when you're trying to run comps, right? And you can't find any sold land because you don't know how much they sold any of this vacant land for, if this is vacant land. So what is your next recourse? Your next recourse is to go to your listed options, you know, your listed amounts. And then you're going to take like 80% of that listed amount to come up with your comparables. So that's the issue behind this when you say non-disclosure state. But in any case, hoping that will help someone if they have that question. All right. Well, if there are no new questions coming in, then we're going to wrap this up for today and let you know that we'll be back on Monday, 5 p.m., where Dominique and I will be getting your questions answered. And just so that you know, Mondays are always reserved for beginner, and we say beginner, we're talking about mostly setup in your Investment Dominator. We reserve Monday for going over what we call the big three, which is your profile, we'll show you about setting up your profile. And then under customize, we'll show you how to set up your company information. And then finally, the other of the big three is your buying and selling site domains. That's what we cover on every Monday so that people can be set up. And especially this Monday coming up, because I'm sure there'll be individuals that will be in the 2.5-day workshop the very next day. So that starts on this Tuesday. The next workshop starts Tuesday, 8 o'clock a.m. Pacific time, 8 a.m. Pacific time. So that's 11 o'clock Eastern. And we'll be in there for 2.5 days and showing and sharing a lot of information with people. All right, so that's going to be it for today, folks. Thank you so much for being on. Thank you, Dominic, for being on. And I'm going to give you a Zig Ziglar quote here. Failure is a detour. It's not a dead-end street. Okay, keep that in mind. Failure is only a detour. It's not a dead-end street. Don't worry about the times that you may feel like you failed, because you haven't failed as long as you don't quit. Hang in there. Have a great weekend, great remainder of your day, and we'll see you on Monday, 5 p.m. Pacific time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye for now.